like we use sales training is one of the things we do because we have very specific marketing message, and we tell them, look, if during the first call you go straight for a close, you will close no one, right? So we just tell them, like, you have to
Mm-hmm.
build a relationship, then book a second appointment. In the second appointment, you pitch your product. You do not pitch the product on the first call. For us specifically, right? There's other marketing, which is totally, yeah, these people opted in to learn more about a specific product. You're there to talk about that product and close them on that product. Go for it. You know what I mean? You want to work with somebody, that would be my recommendation. If you want to just do it yourself, take your time, use Facebook just because it's so cheap, in a sense.
Yes.
Cheap to use, cheap to test. Everybody's on Facebook. Your audience is on Facebook. If I hear one more person like, oh no, my people aren't on Facebook. I'm like, I think 70% of the United States goes on Facebook every single day.
Welcome to the AI Marketing Navigator, where we simplify AI marketing to keep you ahead of the curve. Brought to you by Digital Pop, delivering AI marketing automation so your small business thrives. Here's your host, Alex Carlson.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about maybe some present day, but even some future marketing trends or what you kind of foresee in the future. First, if a small business, B2B or financial firm came to you today, they had a limited budget, maybe they only have maybe they have less than 10,000 to invest in marketing. They need rapid results. What are the three, maybe even two things that you would immediately have them implement if you could? Does it have anything to do with AI? I mean, you probably have to start from, if you're starting from zero with marketing and you need something today. What are you doing with that $10,000 or less for your small business today?
Okay. Um, hmm. So here's the pain point of any new or small business is you don't know what you don't know. And so the biggest thing you don't know is you don't know who your ideal audience is, and you don't know what your ideal service is, and you don't know the ideal pain point. There's so many things you don't know, that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the biggest recommendation is don't do anything big, right? Still realize. Um, so one, don't do anything big. Two, I think I've taken this as a marketing truth, and I've seen it from Hermosi, I've seen it from others, but my understanding, so marketing, ideally you get a 10-to-1 return, right? So you put $1 in, you get $10 back. Realize that doesn't include sales. Like I look at it as 10% of your revenue should be spent on marketing, 10% on sales, and then you have to fulfill it. And again, there's variables, B2B, there's SaaS businesses, there's e-commerce business, which can be very, very different, right? Because I think e-commerce, you're probably looking at a 3-to-1. And then with really big relationships, it could be 100-to-1. So I think so. One, don't do a big test. Still look for leading indicators, right? So for me, I love Facebook in a sense because you can do $5 a day, and you can get instant feedback, right? And so one of the book I love is called Friction, right? And basically the idea is you want to remove reasons why people won't move forward, right? So, for example, let's say we've got a B2B business. They've got, I don't know, let's just take, they're selling solar to, businesses, right? Okay, sure.
Sure.
I don't, is there an industry that listens more to your podcast? I'm just picking at
No, I think go with that example. That's
random.
just fine.
Okay, good. So
Yep.
let's just say the sale's $50,000 for a solar roof. Okay, cool. Well, you're going to want to see how much does it cost me to get a lead, right? And ideally, you want to make it as low friction as possible. So you're going to use a Facebook form. You're probably just going to ask for their name and email. Maybe you're just going to ask for their email. You're not going to, like, the less friction, it pre-populates. It's probably going to be the worst lead you can imagine, right? But you're going to have to figure out your targeting. You're going to be like, cool, I'm going to target small business owners, right? And I'm going to have ChatGPT write me my first ad. And you're gonna spend $5 a day, and you're gonna give it 3 days, and you're gonna go, okay, I got no clicks. You're like, okay, so the first target is, can I get somebody to click on my ad, right? Okay, cool. All right, if you're
Mm-hmm.
nobody clicked on my ad sucked, right? Or my targeting sucked, right? And then you iterate and you go, okay, cool. Now I'm getting clicks. Okay, cool. Fine, but I'm not getting any leads. Good. Next iteration, iterate, right? Every 3 to 5 days. Cool. Can I improve it somehow? Can I improve it somehow? Now I'm getting leads. Cool, but they don't answer the phone. Now I'm asking for their phone number, right? So I think a small business,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, now you really on most small businesses have more time than money. So I think you're going to build it off relationships, networking, things like that. Once you make the switch over to paid ads, like one of the things I've observed, most small businesses are like, oh, I'm a great sales rep. I can close everybody. I get an 80 to 90% close rate. I'm like, fantastic. What's your lead source? They're like, all referrals. I'm like, cool. Yeah, I can do that too on referrals. Just
Yep.
realize for leads, one, the estimation of effort, like my family, my dad and my brother are starting, they've got this software company, they're building a whole AI software thing, which is exciting. Yolm.ai, give them a shout out here, YOLM.ai. But I've talked to them about marketing
Love
and
it.
sales, and you know, they've spent 7 years building the software platform of how to build new software development from scratch in like hours instead of years, right? But like talking about marketing and sales, they're like, yeah, okay, cool. So we ran ads for 3 days and it didn't seem to work, right? Like we got 2 leads, they didn't answer, and I'm like, okay, just realize it does take time, right? Like so the estimation of effort has to be appropriate to what you're going for. So I think if you're making that switch from great, hey, I've been living off referrals, they're inconsistent, I close them like magic, I now want to get consistent closes to be like, great, start spending $5, $10 on Facebook, figure it out, you know what I mean? Unless there's an agency that knows your space, right? If somebody's like,
Mhm.
cool, we know how to do solar, and here's the exact price point, here's the exact results you're getting, and they have ideally sales training. So
Sure.
because like we have sales training is one of the things we do because we have very specific marketing message and we tell them, look, if during the first call you go straight for a close, you will close no one, right? So we just tell them, like, you have to
Mm-hmm.
build a relationship, then book a second appointment. In the second appointment, you pitch your product. You do not pitch the product on the first call. For us specifically, right? There's other marketing, which is totally, yeah, these people opted in to learn more about a specific product. You're there to talk about that product and close them on that product. Go for it. You know what I mean? You want to work with
Mm.
somebody, that would be my recommendation. If you want to just do it yourself, take your time, use Facebook just because it's so cheap, in a sense.
Yes.
Cheap to use, cheap to test. Everybody's on Facebook. Your audience is on Facebook. If I hear one more person's like, oh no, my people aren't on Facebook. I'm like, I think 70% of the United States goes on Facebook every single day, like of the adult population. You know,
Mm.
every single day. I think every single month it's like probably 80 or 90%. I can have those numbers wrong, but they're there. You need to figure out how to target them, and you need to figure out how to convert them. So, anyways, that would be my answer to that one.
Love it. Amazing answer. And navigators, I definitely challenge Jeremy there. And I'm going to go back and take notes to that one because there was so much valuable insight in there. So appreciate that one, Jeremy. And then I want to make sure to get the shout out for your brother and your dad's software one more time. What was
Y'all, so
that? What was that called?
Yolm.ai. So that's YOLM.ai.
Yolm. Yolm.ai. Definitely go check out Yolm. We talked a little bit about, building things custom, whether they're dashboards or websites or tools with things like Lovable. And if you're building, sophisticated dashboards for financial businesses or any of your clients, let's talk a little bit about the metrics that you're including in those dashboards. Specifically, I always like to kind of turn the perspective around what metrics are marketers or small business owners obsessing over that have little value that we shouldn't care about, and maybe what overlooked metrics should we be tracking instead?
Good question. Good question. Okay. I think one that people look at that really doesn't matter is cost per click. Clicks don't count. I mean, even cost per lead. Cost per lead is probably the number one we look at. But I think cost per acquisition is at the end of the day, I think people don't track that one well enough. So it's like, well, and it should just be how many clients did you bring in this month? How much revenue was that worth? And how much did you spend on marketing? And I would look at it on a 3 month look back. I think that's probably what you should be looking what most people aren't looking at. Is going, okay, cool. How much did I spend in total on marketing? Total revenue in the door, new revenue in the door. Um, that was tough because sometimes you also want to look at the recurring factor. So I think looking at that is ideally what we're looking at is like, great, how much sales are you driving, right? Again, it depends on your business. If you're B2B and most of your revenue is recurring, great. Well, then your revenue is recurring. You have to consider that. If it's all one-time sales, that's a different story.
Mhm.
You know. So I think that's one. And I think a metric that most people don't look into that, like I keep a tight eye for my business is how much of my revenue is from first-time sales versus recurring, and you want to shoot for, especially if you ever want to sell your business, is like 60 to 70% of your revenue should be second or more sales, meaning it's like, okay, cool,
Mm.
it's a second sale, it's a third sale, it's a fourth sale, right? It's you want to be creating relationships because, if you want to sell your business and all 90% of your revenue comes from new clients, okay, well, that means, and if you're responsible for new sales, well, cool, then the money is going to disappear as soon as you leave, right? So you want to build something that has recurring value. I mean, I know for me, I've been in businesses where it's like revenue spikes and crashes. It's terrifying, right? Versus, um,
Right.
you know, having a prediction like, okay, cool, well, I've got contracts for this much revenue coming in next month. Can people cancel? Of course, things happen, right? But it's like if you've got 100 clients and you expect to make $100,000, $200,000, because they're on a contract and you have a prediction and it is going to happen. Well, okay, cool. Well, now they're not all of a sudden going to go out of business. So I think tracking how much of your revenue is coming from recurring is one to track as a business owner, and then from a marketing perspective, just really looking at your total marketing spend versus your total revenue in the door.
Amazing. It's excellent. And again, so many valuable insights there. Last thing to close out our conversation, something I always like to ask our guests here. If there is one thing that, if you could know that our listeners would take away from our conversation today about AI powered marketing, again, it could be for financial or greater B2B markets. What's that one thing you would have them take away today about AI, using AI in their marketing?
One thing. I think have whatever AI tool you like, doesn't matter. If you've got Google, Gemini is free, right? If you don't, use ChatGPT, pay the $20, have it open at all times. And every time you have a
Love
question,
it.
just ask, right? And do you take nothing away? Just start using it because the next generation are gonna like just take our lunch money. You know what I mean? There are gonna be some 16-year-olds that are just like, hey, ChatGPT, how should I build a marketing agency? And ChatGPT will guide them better than any of us, right? Or how do I build an insurance business? And it'll guide us better than any of us know because it's got so much more knowledge. So just start using it. That's what I would say.
Amazing. Couldn't agree more. Jeremy, thank you so much. You brought so much value, so many insights, strategic and tactical, that again, I'm going back, I'm taking notes on this episode. Listeners, you definitely should too. If you want to connect with Jeremy, you can find him on LinkedIn. Look up Revenx. Jeremy, where else, if anywhere, can they find you? Can they connect with you if they want to ask you any questions or learn more about Revenx?
Revenx.com is perfect. LinkedIn is perfect. Those are the perfect place.
Awesome. Amazing. Again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for listening to the AI Marketing Navigator. Ready to simplify your own marketing automation? Digital Pop helps make it happen so your small business can scale your marketing fast. Learn more at thedigitalpop.com.